Welcome to the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is Spirit Session Podcast with Katie Silcox, Venga Chicos, and the Thermos.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hello out there in podcast land. I hope you are doing well after this beautiful Thanksgiving, and I hope that you are ready for what promises to be a beautiful winter. That is, we can use the energy of the season to our advantage. That is really what Ayurveda is all about. It's about understanding the external dynamics and getting in alignment with them and doing our best to humbly bow before the gods of winter that, yes, are coming. They may already even be here for you. And so today I want to share a podcast that's, I hope, just super practical. One of the things that I've been thinking about with the podcast is really honoring all of the layers of who we are. And if you listen to the podcast, you know I love to kind of blast into the realm of the psyche and the emotional body and the spirituality, but it's just as important to go deep and down into the everyday life of the food that we eat and just what our daily routine looks like. You know, food and daily routine is really the first spiritual practice. If we can get that in a good place, it's just so much easier to access these subtle realms. So today we're going to be talking about winter immunity, how you can right now prepare and get everything you need and really just kind of write it out, have it as a little note card on your kitchen table or your counter, which is something I try to do. And it just really helps me to remember, because we can know these things and we can, so many of you that listen, I'm sure have even done Ayurveda school and you know, right? Like, you know, but it can be so helpful to just be reminded. So today is all about what can we do to make this winter as immune building as possible. So it's going to be a practical one, you guys. The basics are here, right? We understand that winter is a time when things tend to, especially fall, winter transition, which is kind of really where many of us are. We tend to move into the more dry aspect and cold aspect and spaciousness and emptiness. And these are all really beautiful qualities. But in Ayurveda, we want to cultivate the opposite. So we think about warm, wet, grounding, oily, nurturing, comforting, soothing, all of the reasons why. You know, my neighbor out front is such a sweet dad. He's putting up the massive Bob the reindeer and decorating his whole front yard with Christmas lights. And it's so beautiful, right? We do these traditions now of lighting the candles and putting out the lights and decorating the home with tree life, right? With boughs of holly to remember and to remind ourselves that we do really need soothing, we need comforting, we need light, we need cuddles, basically. And there are many ways we can ensure that that happens. So practically, one of the best investments you can make is so affordable, and that is a thermos that you can have if you're at work, on your desk. If you're at home, you've got it there. You can drive around with it. The thermos, this is our best friend during the winter season, and we want to put in there some hot water. And you can put, herbs like teas. You can do a little bit of ginger. One of my favorite things to do is get the peppermint the peppermint tincture and alcohol, and just put a squirt of that in a large thermos, and now you have this amazing stimulating beverage. In Ayurveda, we use hot water all the time, but especially in winter. And it doesn't have to be boiling, it can be warm. And why? Why do we do that? Well, it's way easier for our viscera and our tissue layers to digest, absorb hot water than it is cold water. If we throw cold water onto it, those tissues have to warm it up themselves. So, I know it feels so good to drink a cold one every now and then, whatever that one is for you. But really, I'm so guilty of this. I love sparkling water. I just really do. It's a problem. In the winter, though, that's really got to go. And we're going to add a little bit of lemon, in the morning. And it's just making all of that hydration easier for our tissues to absorb. But here's the other thing it does. It flushes out toxins. It hydrates your mucous membranes, which dehydration is a big problem in the winter, especially if you have, as we do, these sorts of heat systems. These electrical, especially heat systems, really dry out our tissues. So use that hot water in the morning. It's going to loosen the mucus and pacify that dehydration feeling, especially when we wake up in the morning. And when do we hydrate? Well, we can hydrate all day, but morning time is when we want to get the bulk of the water in. And then if you start to feel like you're coming down with something, a flu, a cold, you can sip water all day long, like every 15, 20 minutes for a couple of days, and that will help a lot. What else? Putting some warm oil, particularly oil that's going to be a little bit more heating in the winter, and I'll give you guys some good links to the ones that I love and that I use, is going to be a really good idea that just helps keep our skin. And, the oil penetrates deep down into the tissue layers. Doing a daily abhyanga, an oil massage, it is so the time in the winter. And, if you're like me, you're not going to just get up and do an hour-long self-massage and then sit in your personal steam room. I realize that's just not available, especially for busy moms and working gals and people out there. I remember working with the CEO of a big company in San Francisco, and I told him about abhyanga, and he just looked at me like, you are from another planet. And even my family, they're like, oh, Katie's, her job is, they think my job is sitting at home rubbing oil on my body. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. And I'm just very, very lucky. I realized that, and even I don't do it, and so we're going to do the best we can. And one of the ways that I have found that really helps me get that oil in is I put buy the oil from Banyan or Pavani, because I really like their oils, and they infuse them with herbs, and I'm not going to do that in my kitchen. And I put that oil in some sea salt or even brown sugar. And then I put that in my shower or my bathtub, and then I do this sort of oily salt scrub, and it's really great. And you kind of get that hydration plus a little exfoliation. So that's my little side hustle on abhyanga. What about food? I mean, intuitively, but soups, stews, bone broths, this is actually the time when we do want to have a little bit more fat. We don't want to overdo it, especially if we have liver and gallbladder toxicity. But, a little more of that fat in this season is going to be helpful, getting vata down. This is a great time to explore ferments, kimchi, sauerkraut. The grass-fed meats, if you do eat meat, make sure it's from a good source. And this is really the time to kick it root down. You're going to want to get your beets, your sweet potatoes, your carrots. Another great thing right now is seaweed. It's just so full of nutrition that it just helps a lot. So get all those things in your diet. Go see what's seasonal and local. This is the time when our ancestors would have been, eating their canned their canned applesauce and their pickled carrots and all those things. So pull those out or go buy them. And just because it's winter does not mean that we don't need to be outside. I spent some time in New Zealand, and I remember that I learned the phrase there's no bad weather, there's just bad clothes. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're going to bundle up. We're going to put on a bunch of layers. And one of my favorite practices in the winter season is actually to geek out, put on as many clothes as I can, put on my furry boots, and I just go sit outside in the sunrise. And I get a blanket, I get a hot tea. Oh, it's such a pleasure. And if you can watch those first early morning sunrise light, that is going to actually just set the circadian rhythm for the whole day. And, there are apps you can get for this, but explore. And I kind of just use my intuition. When is the sun the highest in the sky in the winter? And that also I'm going to come outside and get about 10 or 15 minutes of sunbathing. In the winter, yes, it's possible. You can at least get it on your face and hands. And we're going to get that good vitamin D, which is something that really plummets during the winter time. That said, I still personally supplement with vitamin D during the winter. I don't do it really in the summer because I'm outside a lot, but vitamin D is one of the most important precursors to immunity. If your vitamin D levels are low, you're pretty much guaranteed to be getting flus and colds. So supplementing with a vitamin D is a great idea in the winter time. Being outside is important. There's this incredible study by the Japanese immunologist. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but Jing Li. And he says hiking 2 times a day for 3 days increased white blood cells 40%. And they remained 15% higher a month later. You guys, that's banana sandwich. And I need to research it more. And I want to know how long he hiked for 2 times a day. So if you find that out, send us an email at info@theshaktischool.com. I would love to know, how long do we need to hike, Jing Li? But guys, that's incredible. And what he found is that this did not happen in an urban environment. We need to go out into the deep nature. Okay, what else? Our nervous system is the precursor to healthy immunity. So meditation, keeping the stress levels down, working with our emotional body, and, doing some vagal nerve work. I'm a big fan of aggressive vagal gargling, which is also the funniest phrase ever. And it's just sort of what it sounds. You get, you can put a little pinch of rock salt, Himalayan salt in the hot water. And I do it in the shower. And you just gargle. You gargle until you cannot gargle anymore. You gargle hard. I want you to gargle hard. And then when you're like, oh my God, I'm going to vomit, you kind of let it go and please don't vomit. But doing that like a full cup, at least a neti pot full, that resets the vagus nerve. It resets the whole nervous system. Wonderful. I've also just joined a really cool app called Breath Source, and doing some really good nervous system healing breath work is a wonderful idea. We'll put a link to that app. But also our subscription program has literally so many practices, movements, techniques, meditations, breath work, everything you can imagine. And that's really what we're about at the Shakti School. The mother root of all medicine is the mind. And the mind is the nervous system, right? The patterns of our past are stored here. And as we begin to work with the nervous system, we begin to discover all of that hidden materia underneath the surface that's causing those patterns. And so working with our thoughts, working with our emotions on the surface is great, right? And that's a great technique, but really going in and something like dream work can be one of the single most powerful practices for the winter. First of all, we'll get to it in a moment, but sleep is the medicine of the winter. It's not the time to party. You can party on Christmas, you can party on Kwanzaa, but otherwise, we have got to really honor the time, which is the summer is when we're going to sleep less, we're going to be in that solar energy of the masculine, but the winter is the feminine. And of course, that's for men and women. So prayer, dream work, intention seeding is different than intention manifesting. We're going to put the seeds in the dark soil, right? And that is so important. That dream work, recording your dreams, if you can remember them in the morning, and really giving them some time. And you can draw them, you can paint them, you can even just use an image from your dreams and bring it into your day, or use it as an imaginal portal. That is going to really help honor the mystery and the magic and the darkness of the feminine that is this time. This is the time of the yin. So sleep medicine is winter medicine. There's really nothing I love more than sleep. I have to be honest. It's also something I've struggled with. It doesn't come super easy for me. I've had to really work for it. And I really love the Huberman sleep cocktail. This is Andrew Huberman. He's a scientist out of Stanford. I do a slightly different version because his is designed for men, understandably. And I'll put a link in the show notes to these products. But I've been using this, and of course, consult with the doctor and all that. But this has been a game changer for me. And basically, it's magnesium, L-theanine, and every now and then I'm going to do a little bit of GABA. And I love this stuff. It allows that down regulation of the nervous system. This is so good for us guys, especially if you tend to be someone who's a little bit more upregulated. If you're like, dude, I sleep great, I have trouble getting up, you do not need this. But if you're kind of more that type A, that Pitta Vata, or that Pure Vata, this can be such good medicine. So I'll put some notes on that, and the physician recommended dosage in the show notes. So make sure to check that out and see how it goes for you. A couple other supplements that I think are really good. So I mentioned vitamin D, L-glutamine, also another wonderful one for the gut microbiome, but also for the immune system. Zinc, got to get your omega-3 fatty acids in. Selenium is another one I do more in the winter. Echinacea, nettles, astragalus, ashwagandha, ginger, garlic, onions, and elderberry. Now you notice I use garlic and onions, but those you can throw in your soups. You don't need to do like a garlic tincture. And then this is a great time to do some of those medicinal mushrooms like chaga, lion's mane. Great time for that. So we'll put some links to that. And full disclosure, I do work with certain brands and spent just a lot of time trying to find the best ones selfishly for myself. And so I'll share with you guys the companies that I work with. And of course, always do your own research and find the brand that you like the best and that works for you. So that's it, guys. You've got a lot there. There's a lot to support us during this time, but I just want to close by saying, you can take all the supplements in the world. You can eat the perfect grass-fed bone broth. You can, do all the things. But the main medicine is our mind and our heart. Herbs and medicinal foods can only be thought of as a support. They can only get us so far. What we think and feel, what we eat with the subtle senses is a super vital part of building our strong immunity. And so just really, it's that simple. Let yourself feel your feelings. Try not to judge your feelings. And remember the part of you that is also beyond the thoughts and feelings, and see if you can connect to that energy medicine every single day. I hope that this Winter Wonderland podcast has been of service to you, and I hope that you may join us next year in the classroom. We start, as you guys know, January 18th. It all goes down, right, in the winter, and I love that. It's just such a perfect time to really make it a priority. You deserve to feel good in 2023. You deserve to have something like Ayurveda Wednesdays where we gather together in level 1. We're together for a whole year, steeping ourselves in these practices. And I know for me, Ayurveda Wednesday is really a place where I can kind of reset, even though I'm teaching. And we've found that it really can be that as well for our students. As always, we're happy to talk to you. I have an incredible staff and team of coaches who've done the program. They've done the whole thing. It's a 2-year full program, but you can just do 1 year, and they are more than happy to sit down with you and talk with you. And you guys can, see if the program's a right fit for you. We aren't trying to have as many people as possible. We are trying to have the right people. And so if this is something that's been on your radar, why don't you connect with us, join us. It starts this January 18th. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast, and hope to see you soon in the classroom. A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.